Hi, this is Russell Brooks. I'd like to just wanted to take a moment to do a screencast to demo something I wrote a couple of years ago in JavaScript that I'm particularly proud of. It really hadn't been done at the time. Well, one piece of it really hadn't been done at the time. It's a drag and drop multi-file uploader with progress bars and resumable upload capabilities. The resumable upload capabilities is the part I'm referring to that really wasn't done at the time in JavaScript. There are libraries to kind of do that now, but at the time this was very kind of leading edge. So just to take you through some requirements here, so you can kind of see the needs that kind of spawned this process and the evolution of this component. We knew we wanted it to be easy to use, definitely a drag and drop experience. We knew we wanted it to be native browser, no reliance on plugins like Java or Flash. It had to support multiple simultaneous uploads. We wanted progress bars, that's a nice usability feature. And it had to support very large files, upwards of 20 gigs, because these are very large, like video files that needed to be uploaded. So connectivity interruption was inevitable. These are going to be several hour-long uploads over unreliable public internet connections. That also leads to RAM consumption problems and problems like tying up app processes on the server side. So, I mean, the connectivity interruption is solved by resumable uploads, but resumable uploads aren't supported natively by the HTTP protocol. They are supported by FTP. So there were at the time some browser plugins that achieved resumable uploads by using FTP underneath, but I didn't go down that route because it represented kind of building and maintaining a whole FTP infrastructure and everything that goes along with that. And then tying that to your HTTP authentication mechanisms is a bit of a kludge. I wanted to keep everything in HTTP. The authentication layer is already there with your cookies and everything, and it's tied to your user base in the DB. You have easy access to encryption at your disposal if you need it, like SSL. So, so resumable uploads kind of solved that problem, and then the RAM consumption issues. So I guess it's kind of known that if you just kind of perform an upload directly to your framework or your app process, this was Rails at the time. They don't really have large file support built in. They don't buffer the upload and flush things to disk periodically. The upload sort of just grows in RAM until the upload is done, and then it flushes out to disk. So that obviously won't scale. If you have a 20 gig file being uploaded by one person, there goes your 16 gigs of RAM on the server, and you crash your app process. So, I mean, granted, there are ways server-side, in server-side JavaScript and other languages to kind of flush an upload out to disk periodically as it arrives, but that sort of solves the RAM problem. But even then, you're still tying up one of the app processes with this very long operation. It makes that app process unavailable to do other more important work like serving actual web pages. So you can imagine 5 users uploading 10 files, and if you have 50 app processes, that would consume all the app processes for however long it took for those files to complete, and that could be upwards of a few hours, and then you have no more app processes to serve actual requests, and people start getting timeouts and things like that. So, so the next kind of realization that happens is you realize that there's already this thing that's completely independent of your app processes that is very good at sending and receiving files over HTTP, and that thing is your web server or your reverse proxy. Apache for some people, Nginx for me. So both of those technologies are completely designed 100% around enormous uploads and downloads without RAM even being phased. They buffer requests, they're multi-threaded, there's queuing built in. So assuming that's true now, assuming we're essentially uploading these static files directly to the web server, the next question becomes, how can our app know when that request is done and respond accordingly? So Apache and Nginx have modules that allow you to do this. Apache has the mod upload module. Nginx's is just called the upload module. So what those do is handle the upload entirely as if it's a static file, but then hand off the request to your app process behind the scenes. So when the upload is finished. So you almost get your app process is completely unaware the upload is taking place until it completes. And then it gets sort of a copy, a cloned request that doesn't have the big upload in the body of the request. So it just gets a light little request. All your post vars are still there. Your query string is still there for you to check, so you can respond accordingly server side. Store that record in a database and things like that. So we knew initially we had to use the Nginx upload module to kind of solve the app process bloat issue. And then if you kind of look at the page of docs on that module, you notice one of the first settings on here is upload resumable on or off. So I said, great, the upload module kind of supports resumes. This is exactly what we need. Again, chunking requests kind of didn't exist in JavaScript at that time. If you look at the spec to this, you can see one of the first requirements is splitting the file into segments, and they give you some little specialized things you include in your request header to kind of specify the byte range and the session ID. So this hadn't been done in Java. This feature of chunking requests didn't exist in JavaScript at the time. So the only thing out there after scouring the internet for days was this Silverlight plugin written by this guy Dimitri, who I think is on, he's either on the Nginx core team or on the Nginx upload module team. But Dimitri wrote this Silverlight plugin that did these chunked uploads through the Nginx upload module, and it supported multi-file uploads and things like that. So it was pretty good, and we evaluated it, and it worked. We were definitely leery about imposing a Silverlight plugin on our users. It was a big concern, but we didn't make it the default experience to begin with. We made it optional, in other words. So we had a checkbox, on the page somewhere here that just said resume or resumable, and it had a tooltip that explained what it did. And it was unchecked by default. So the default behavior was non-resumable uploads, and that experience was completely JavaScript. It was entirely native. So it was only when they checked this resume button we kind of dynamically replaced the upload target here with the Silverlight plugin. And then they had an upload button they could click, and a file dialog would appear, a file chooser dialog, and they could pick multiple files and then click an upload button. And it had progress reporting that you could check from JavaScript. So we even maintained the nice progress bars that we wanted. So that worked for a good year. It was fine. So fast forward now, that kind of bought us some time. We knew it was just a stopgap till these APIs were kind of more adopted by the browser manufacturers, these chunking APIs. So fast forward a year later, I had been keeping tabs on the file API the whole time, and eventually noticed that there was a slice method on the blob object in some of these newer JavaScript APIs. So I kind of said to the team, hey, I'm pretty sure I can write this chunking routine in JavaScript, and I committed myself to it. Everyone said, sure, take a couple days, spike on it. So I spent a good 2 or 3 days initially exhausting my efforts here with the protocol specification here. They've got, they give you some light examples of how the headers are supposed to be structured here, but there was just some little specifics missing from this page that that you literally couldn't find anywhere on the internet, because no one had documented this anywhere. This didn't exist in a wiki. This was literally all I had to go on. So after 2 days of sort of getting it working, I realized I really had to just reverse engineer this C# Silverlight component, specifically these kind of three files here, especially uploader.cs. This has some of the important functions in here that do the chunking. Actually, that one right there, calculate next chunk ranges. This is kind of the business routine in here that really does the bulk of the work. There's another method in here that structures the request header. That was another important one to really understand and get right. So, so mind you, at this point, I had been out of the C# world for 9 or 10 years at least. I had no C# development environment anymore. I didn't even have a PC. I literally had to kind of eyeball this whole routine and kind of just rely on my tired old C# knowledge to kind of translate each of these lines into JavaScript, which was a pretty meticulous process, but eventually it worked. I broke through on that like kind of the following morning and had resumables working 100% native in JavaScript. And again, at that time, this type of uploader didn't exist anywhere on the internet. I would periodically Google around for it and find nothing. So I was pretty proud of that. It really did kind of feel truly leading edge and innovative. Enough about that. I'll get on to, oh, and you can actually see some of those routines here in JavaScript. I even named it the same thing as the C# routine I pulled it from, like calculate next chunk range. And there is a lot of kind of little exceptions in here that aren't in the spec, little plus and minus, sometimes it's -1 and sometimes it's +1, depending on whether it's the starting chunk and the ending chunk is a little different. It has no range header. And so there was just a lot of little kind of nuances that weren't mentioned in the spec. So, again, the C# code was kind of my documentation. So let me get to the demo here. I have, so you can see I have my node handler here is just set to kind of tail out whatever request it gets here. I just refreshed the page and you can see a get request to the / root took place. And if I refresh, yeah, you'll see another request show up in the tail. I'll kind of leave that showing in the background so you can kind of see the root we're uploading to is called /upload. So you can see as it's uploading that node is completely unaware of the upload. So it's completely circumventing the node app process until the upload completes, and then you'll see the little post request to upload to the upload root kind of appear here. So we've got our Nginx process or reverse proxy here in front. The upload module is installed. Node is waiting, listening for those requests. I'll get some big files here. I'll just show you initially a non-resumable upload. Let me delete these prior uploads here from the, oh, I should mention about the directory structure. We've got two folders here that really matter. My application's in the www directory, but we've got a state file and a media. Media is where the uploads end up, and it's also where the partial uploads sit. So initially when something uploads, it's just named after the session ID that you gave it in the body of the request. So the partial uploads you see are just this kind of MD5 hashed session ID that I gave it client side. The state directory is where these little state files live with the byte ranges. That just all that's in the state file is just a record of the byte range that Nginx received so far, and it has total bytes as well, like the total expected bytes of that whole file. So you'll see these directories kind of new files kind of show up here as we upload, and let me do that. I'll get this showing. Just upload a couple of small ones initially. We get some progress, and they succeed. And you can see we did get a couple of upload requests, post requests showing up here in our node handler. And I have the handler set to just rename the files after they succeed. So it just renamed them back to what they were initially named. So we can just delete these. And now I'll show an interrupted upload. We'll grab all 4 of these this time. You can see the sizes on some of these files. These are some bigger ones that are going to take longer to upload, 250 megs or so. So we can kind of, we have time to kind of interrupt them. But I will drop those in, and yeah, we have some time here now to kind of interrupt. I'm just going to refresh the browser to interrupt them. We saw a brief error there appear in the progress bars, and now we have these partially uploaded files here, and these state files I was talking about that where you have a byte range of what was uploaded so far, a slash, and then the total expected bytes that for the whole file. So now, if we kind of flip back over to the browser and drag the 2 files that failed back in, you'll see that the progress bars jump immediately to where they left off last time. So we chuck these in here now, and you see the progress bars jumped immediately to 60 or 70%, and then they completed, and now we have all 4 of those files here and intact, and they're working, playable movies. So, another cool feature that kind of evolved after that is we wanted to support folder drops, like being able to drop an entire folder onto the web page. So that was kind of a 1.1 feature we implemented later on. And initially it was only supported in Chrome, but now I think it's kind of filtered into the other browsers as well. So I think this will work in IE 10, definitely IE 10, and all the rest of the browsers. So we can just drop a folder in, and you'll see it just drilled into the folder, read all the files out of there, and uploaded them. So kind of nice, just more usable, more friendly feature to implement. So I guess some other features we could kind of add to this. I guess the evolution of this would be supporting, well, cancel buttons would be nice directly on the progress bars, but also being able to drag in additional files while they're in progress. I actually toyed with that a little bit and kind of have an approach already on how to do that. So those would be some good additional future features to implement. So yeah, that's the resumable multi-file uploader. I hope this was interesting, and thanks for watching.